Here we are. Welcome, everybody. I'm Brant Miner, Max Hoops, Pacific University, men's basketball. I'm really excited about this Oregon Madness tournament. So we have teams from 1A through 6A. We've adjusted it. There's been a lot of moving parts this year for everybody. There's been a lot of things beyond our control happening, and I've always been taught, and I try to stress to others, if you can't control it, don't spend a lot of time stressing over it. And so a lot of this pandemic has kind of been beyond our control. So there's things that have happened that we can't stop, that we can't start. So for us, I'm trying to worry about what we can control, and that's getting input from coaches and trying to make this the best experience for everybody involved. And that was the goal from the beginning, to make it a positive experience for everybody that's involved. And unfortunately, we've had to shrink it from the original concept. They've added some tournaments as COVID restrictions have lessened a little bit. There's been teams that have had injuries. There's been teams that are too big time to return a call or a text from a college coach like myself. There's been a lot of things that have happened in this tournament that has brought us here, but I'm confident I think there's 19 teams that have said prior to this call tonight that they were in. Some of those might drop off tonight after learning that I'm involved, but we're going to push forward with the teams that we have. So I guess I can turn it over. I'm working with an awesome group with this, the Pack in Salem. I've known Hemingway for a while. Hemingway and I went to the same university. Shout out University of Portland. Go Pilots, Hemingway.
That's right.
Okay, just making sure that you were gonna say that, since this is being recorded.
Yes, go Pilots.
Go Pilots, you know it. So he's in the gym tonight down there in Salem. So him and Jeb and Steve, I've met those guys and just really think they're doing it the right way in Salem. And there's been, I think they're trying to be a unifier. I've always tried to think of myself as a unifier, whether that's high school teams, club teams, college teams. I run camps that I invite 20 college coaches to. Some of my rivals I invite to come, and I'm trying to bring people together. And so whether that's Black, white, Asian, male, female, I'm trying to be an inclusive provider. And so 1A to 6A, when we were talking, Hemingway and myself and his partners, we came up with the idea of having a real state tournament where the teams from the 1A would have a chance to go up against the teams from the 6A. And I love the movie Hoosiers. I think I'm on a basketball call, so you guys know the story, but I'm not saying that I would love to see an upset but I think upsets do make tournaments a little more exciting. My senior year at the state tournament, we beat Jefferson in the first round. This might get back to Coach Strickland. I don't know, because he hasn't returned a text or an email or a phone call or anything. So I'm not sure if he'll see this, but my senior year, we knocked off Jefferson, and they used to seed the tournament 1 to 16. We were seeded 14th. Coach Haskins, the Jefferson Democrats, thought they got gypped because they were the number 3 seed that year. And we came out and we executed our game plan, and we beat Jefferson in the first round of the state tournament. And that was an incredible memory for me. And obviously I could tell you what it was like. I could give you all the details if you want, but I'm going to save you the time and just say that the high school experience for me was awesome. The state tournament was where the University of Portland saw me play my senior year when we upset Jeff. And it just created amazing memories for me in my high school experience. And knowing this year with COVID, there wasn't, now there's other tournaments going, but we wanted to give those kids something to play for, like I had when I was in high school. So that's kind of where this came about. And so to have teams, there's some great teams that are playing 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A, 5A, 6A, right? When I was in high school, 4A was the biggest, so it was a little more condensed. But now, there's going to be questions as to, well, this team, how would they have stacked up against this team? Well, we wanted to try to solve that this year by having the top 1A, the top 2As, the top 3As, 4As, 5As, and 6As compete at the end of the year to see if we could have some upsets or if we could have just a good quality tournament. So Hemingway reached out. We got to connect. I've been down to their facility a number of times now in Salem. It's beautiful. You guys did it the right way. There's just, it's really clean, fresh, bright. And I love that for a Salem gym to be able to say that it's bright and fresh. I've done camps at McNary and Sprague and been in a lot of gyms. You guys, Hemingway, Jeb, you guys did it the right way. There's a lot of good gyms in there, but I love the colors. Not saying anything bad about Sprague, Jordan, but my wife's a duck, so the black and orange I couldn't get away with in my house. But the
I
pink,
hear ya.
the pink. Okay, he's gonna unmute. What do you got? What's your rebuttal there, Jordan?
Well, I like the pink. I think it looks pretty sharp, to be honest. First time I saw it, but
okay, I appreciate. I'm glad. And again, I'm not hating on. I wear a lot of red and black, so Plank already knows I got some red and black in my closet. I know he's got some too. But the color scheme looks great. It's a nice setup they have. I could ramble. I get excited. I'll turn this over to you, Hemingway. And just again, thank you guys that are here live and the ones that are watching this on replay. I'm excited for this. Really looking forward to helping give your kids an experience like I had on the next level, because there was no Instagram or Facebook even when I was in high school. But I do have the articles. If you guys are watching this on replay, text me and I'll send you copies of the article about when we beat Jefferson, or what it was like when we finished 4th at the state tournament. So that's what we're going to do. 16 teams, double elimination in that you'll play until you lose 2. But if you lose your first round game, you'll go into competing for the consolation championship, which I believe is 6th place, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe 5th place. Plank, do you know that off the top of your head?
should be 5th, I think.
Because if you obviously first and second, and then if you win the 3rd, I think it would be 5th.
I think it's 5th. That's what I think. We've done that once before.
But you guys have always played 8 teams, right? Or
yeah, but
you were
when
in
I
the
was
16.
in high school, yeah, when I was in high school, we had the 16 and we took the consolation, and I think we were 5th.
So you lost the first one and then won the next 3.
Yeah.
So we want to make it 16 teams where you got to win 4 in a row to win this title. But if you lose one, you still can fight for a trophy. And so there's some teams that lose the first round and they'll pack it in. And I'm not going to throw Thurston under the bus, but when we beat Jefferson, lost to Tigard, and then we played Shea Washington and Thurston, and they had already packed it in, and we beat them by 23. And then we matched up against Jordan Kent and Churchill, and we beat them. Again, this is not about me. Unless you want it to be, call me, we can talk. But Hemingway, I'll turn it over to you, man.
Thanks, Brent. So I'm Hemingway. I'm one of the partners here. Can you guys hear me okay with all the defensive drills in the back that's going on with our 8th graders?
Tell them to get in a stance. Tell them to get in a stance. I can see them back there. And
no, they're stretching now. They're stretching now. So just a little bit about the Pack Salem. It started off about 4 years ago. We're Youth Stars. We're a nonprofit that our whole goal was to change AAU basketball. We see a lot of this AAU going the wrong way, which is individualism, bad attitude, all about me, not about team play. And actually, we're losing middle school basketball and high school basketball. So what we thought about, Jeb, Steve, and I, is like, how do we bring sports back where we're teaching them more than basketball? So Youth Stars grew organically. We partner with great coaches like Jordan from the Valley, with Kirch, everyone that believed that we should put all our efforts in our junior program and really feed them to the high school. So part of the Oregon Madness was that we were hearing nobody's really doing anything during the pandemic to help these kids play. So we sought out a solution to say, hey, how can we do something that is meaningful, is inclusive, is equitable, and at the same time, put some sizzle back into high school basketball. So that's one of the things we're battling now. A lot of these kids are like, oh, I'm gone to AAU. right after this season ends, right? Because they'd rather play that versus playing high school. So I think one of the main reasons we want to do is bring that excitement back and support the high school coaches around here. So with that, one of the reasons Dr. Comstock is on here and why she wants to talk about, why we're doing some testing and saliva testing, non-invasive, is because what if something does happen again? And we want to prove that if something does happen, we have solutions where they're not going to stop basketball. We have a way to go forward. So that's just, a little background about us, a little background why we did Oregon Madness, and it's something we want to do annually. So with your help as coaches and your support, we can do that. And so I think this one is our first trial run. Whether it's 16 teams, 32, we want as many teams as possible, but we also want to make it work for you guys. What you guys feel is best for us to do. So I'll hand it over to Dr. Comstock to talk about the process, and then open up to any questions because that would be some valuable information. It's not just about now because everything's going to open up soon, but it's about our future. And then also after Dr. Comstock, Bobby, who's the ref, the OCA, part of the OCA ref association, he'll talk about what he thinks is needed and what he's bringing to the table to make sure we have the best tournament with the best refs. He thinks he's the best ref, but that's up to you coaches when you when you see him on the court. So I'll hand it
No, I
over.
don't.
So I'll hand it over to Dr. Comstock first.
Okay, thank you, Hemingway. I appreciate it. My son's in the background there practicing. That's him. It's the black kid with the little dreads or the long dreads right there. That's my son practicing. So Hemingway first approached me because of, COVID, and I'm a science professor at Corbin University, and I tested all the athletes for the Cascade Collegiate Conference. And was able to put together the return to play program for them. So I tested about 15,000 athletes over December through April. And so when we were talking about doing this, I suggested that maybe we could do this all unmasked, even though half the time these kids only have them hanging out here, if we could do it with all permission and that sort of thing from the Oregon Health Authority without getting in trouble. So I went to the Oregon Health Authority because I already work with them, and they said, yeah, you can do it and we'll pay for all the testing for you if you can try this out for us and tell us if we can do this type of testing in the fall for football and for any high school sport and that sort of thing, because they're not really sure what's going to happen in the fall. And so I said, okay, I'll talk to Hemingway and ask him if they'd be willing to do it. Everything's paid for. And then it kind of provides some peace of mind when you have big groups of people coming together. So the idea is what's going to happen is, are we doing this over 3 weeks now or 2 weeks now, Hemingway? What's our plan? I know it's double elimination.
It might be 1 week.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, that makes it a little easier. So it's just not next week, the week after, right? The week of the 28th. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to mail you all packets, and you'll get them on Monday. On Tuesday and Wednesday, you have kids spit in a tube. I have prepaid FedEx envelopes, and you all mail them back to me. I test them all on Thursday and Friday and let you know, hey, no one has COVID, right? And that's the idea. If someone did come up positive, we can work on contact tracing where the whole team doesn't have to be out. It's just that one individual, and we figure out that one individual. And that's what we did with the CCC. We wouldn't have to disqualify an entire team for this. You just do the contact tracing and go, oh, well, these two individuals, or Hemingway said we can maybe reschedule some things. I don't know how that's going to work with a week turnaround, but I'm offering to do this with the pack or any other athletic teams you guys come up with and make it as easy as possible for you all. So what I would like to do is email everyone and kind of give you an explanation, but it's really simple. They just don't eat or drink for 30 minutes before they come in, and they spin in a tube and label it and send it to me. That's about it. It's not super complicated. Can I share my screen? Have you given me permission, Brant? Can you give me permission? All right, now I'll try again. No, it's still disabled. It just takes a sec. All right, that should work. All right, it should still allow you to record though. So basically the system that we use is called LabDash. So you would designate a person that's in charge of collecting the samples. So if that is you as a coach, great. But if there's someone else, what we did was the athletic trainers for all the teams, and it was really easy, right? And then they're going to need to register for an account. So I'm going to log out of this one and show you, but really I can easily walk everyone through this individually, or I send instructions too. It's not actually that complicated, but if you're the one that's collecting the samples, you register as a sponsor, right? Or if you're the patient, you register as a patient. The only difficult part is that if a coach is collecting the samples, but they also want to get tested, they're going to probably need two registrations: a patient registration and a sponsor registration. Or you just designate a team mom to be the sponsor and they don't get tested. I'm totally fine with that. And I have detailed instructions on how to do that. So then briefly, what ends up happening is pretty cool. Each patient registers, they come in, they have a QR code. So if I was going to go and I can scan it, those are my pens, right? I scan their QR code, and then I enter their patient code, and then I scan the barcode on the sample, and then it's done. And so then you just FedEx them to me and I will let you know your results here. And I'm going to log out of this one because that's my sponsor account, and I log in here. I have so many different. All right, maybe not. Okay, well, we'll just go back to that one. All right, but basically it's really, really easy to collect the samples. And then all this, it should be really easy to send it to me. And the nice part about doing this is the test that was developed with the NBA bubble and Yale, right? The nice part about it is saliva. It's stable for a week. You don't have to do anything special. I can test all the refs. I can test all the coaches. I can test people who are around the coaches. I can test students. You just tell me who you want tested and I test them, right? It's not, and as I will email you the instructions on how to do it. And then I'll also include my cell phone number in case there's any issues registering. The big thing that I would suggest right now is if you've decided you're going to be the collector, is you go in to labdash.net and you register for a sponsor account, right? If you decide you want someone else to be the collector and you just want to get tested, go into labdash.net and register for a patient account. And then you'll see the whole setup. It's a pretty nice system that the state, I also convinced the state to pay for me too. So they just want, I was so frustrated even this year because I was testing for college athletics, and while my kids' sports and all my kids' friends' sports were canceled, and I was like, we're doing it in college. I could be doing this for every school around me. So yeah, so they're now saying, I just had so many conversations with OHA, and I said, if you think anyone's going to get screened, it's probably going to be through sports, because they're not just going to come to a classroom and spit in a tube. But if you say, we don't have to wear masks, you don't have to quarantine, if you screen weekly and that sort of thing, you're going to get a lot more, because we love our sports. Does that all make sense? That's kind of why I started it. And this is what I'm trying to prove to OHA, that because they're always somewhat convinced that you can't reason with the general population. I go, yes, you can. You just have to talk about it at their level, and sports matter to us. So yeah, so that's what that is. So can I answer any questions so far? Have I been confusing?
Made sense to me. And I just want to say thank you on behalf of everybody who's getting this opportunity. Thank you.
Well, and that's
It
what I
makes
say.
sense.
OHA knows that there are no masks. They're fine with it. We've had this conversation. They know we're going to do this contact tracing. If anyone comes up positive, we're going to figure it out. And then I'm going to come back to them and say, this is what worked. This is what didn't. And if we want to repeat this anytime, anywhere, you just let me know. They've told me I can just bill them for every test I run. So it's just one of those, I just think they need to, yeah, they just want to somehow get screening in schools. And I don't know if COVID's just going to go away or not, but if we don't have to be so closed down and masked up and still live a normal life, as long as we just spit in a tube, that would be a good idea. So.
You pretty much answered my question just in terms of, screening the officials, because again, they're on the floor with this year. It's been weird because we've been told don't touch the ball. We gotta, use your foot. And it's so weird, and inbounding the ball and not being able to hand the ball to the kids. Kids have the ball all the time. So if we can have that in place, I think that as you said, it makes a lot of people more apt to be involved and want to take part in the.
Yeah, so my only question with the officials is I can send individual ones if we know who the officials are, or we can have all the officials come to the PAC, pick it up. I do have 3 college interns that can go to wherever I send them to as well. So I would just have to know how you want me to test the officials, because we'll test them. They can send it back. I have prepaid FedEx overnight envelopes. We can do however we want to do it. So I would just want to know what's going to make it the easiest, because then I get to tell OHA, this is the easiest. This doesn't work. So stop asking for people to do this because they can't, like not touch the ball. That's the stupidest thing.
It is. I'm working on that piece in terms of the number of officials. That depends on the number of teams and the number of games we're going to play. Is really gonna be what helps me figure out how many officials I'm going to need over the course of that week period.
Okay.
So
2 other things I didn't mention. One is if you've been vaccinated, I say it's in our statement. They don't have to be tested, right? So you don't have to be tested. That's the idea, and that was my conversation with OHA, because this might help motivate some people to get vaccinated, but then the other thing is, if someone has had COVID in the past 90 days and we have a record of it, they should also not be tested, because they can test positive again. And I don't want them to have to go through the quarantine procedure or the confusion of the quarantine procedure. Because if they've had COVID before, they can test positive for 90 days, which is crazy. Our tests are almost too sensitive, but the OHA knows that. I talk to them all the time. That's also in our procedure, that if you've had COVID in the last 90 days, you do not test again. You just don't. So you have to have gone through the quarantine period or the isolation period, but typically the person knows what that is and they're done and they're allowed to play again. Okay.
So vaccinated people would not have to have the test.
They wouldn't have to. Anytime you want tested. The nice part is if you have to travel, there's a nice little lab report. So if you have to travel and you want it, you might as well get it. I've done it. Well, I have tubes sitting in my home. I test my children all the time. But it's not going to hurt you. You're not going to test positive if you've been vaccinated, but you don't have to. No, it's just not a requirement. So.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Bobby, did you have another question?
Nope.
Oh,
no,
okay.
It's just a matter of
Thinking about it. Yeah. And so I will have the list. What I'm going to do, the biggest thing for me right now is emailing all those coaches and say, hey, register yourself or register a designated individual as the sponsor, right? Who's going to collect? And then I'm going to email those coaches and ask for addresses to send the materials to, and those will be sent by the end of the week. So you guys can collect. And my recommendation is Tuesday, Wednesday next week to collect. So they can be, actually my recommendation is to collect on Tuesday so you can mail them on Wednesday and I get them on Thursday. And I have Thursday and Friday to run them. So, but yeah, I will email you guys and get an address to send everything to. And I think that's all I really need. So, okay, thank you.
That's great. Hemingway, do you have anything else you want to add? 10 days out is kind of the plan to have released the brackets and all the seating, which would be, that's Friday. Is that
This
correct?
Friday.
This Friday. So today's
Yeah.
Tuesday. So you're still on mute though, Hemingway. But so we're gonna be contacting the coaches. Right now it's looking like Monday, because there's 2 courts there. So we'll play the first 8 games Monday. And then the second day would still be, everybody would still play the second day for sure. And we can set up the out of town teams with a Monday night or Monday evening game playing. And then so
Perfect.
then you would play Tuesday, either breakfast bracket or the top 4, the 8 teams that win day 1 would play the last 4 games of the second day and so on. But is there anything you want to add, Hemingway? Are there any questions that anybody has that's on the live call?
No, the only thing is making sure that all the coaches have the games, the minimum games they want, and organizing. Sound like the double elimination makes the most sense, so that we can accommodate, at least for those traveling, at least 2 games, right? If they're going to be out of town. So that's, and if doing daytime games is okay as well, since we are out of school, just making sure that's okay with all the coaches.
That sounds great. Well, thanks, Hemingway. Thank you, Dr. Comstock. I really appreciate it. Bobby, I appreciate you hopping on.
Can we give Bobby some time? I think he wanted to talk about what he's thinking about too.
Yeah, so I know that the original plan was kind of to do it over several weekends, and that plan has changed. That makes it a little more complicated for officials because we don't, a lot of us don't just do that for a living. We have other jobs and other things we do. So trying to find officials that can work the day games. And my thing is trying to get the highest level officials that we can get. I'm shooting through, I'm an official with SBOA, so Salem Basketball Officials Association. I've been officiating for 15 years, have been to several state tournaments and worked some championship games at those tournaments. So I think I'm a pretty good official, and know quite a few people in the local area, and some folks out of Portland. Have done some small college as well at the JC level. And I'm working with someone that Brett Miner knows, Nick Fink, who does a lot of signing out of Portland. And so my suggestion to Hemingway and Steve and the group was to try and, if we're getting teams from Portland, get some familiar faces on the floor to make those coaches feel good about what's going on their games, as well as looking at doing 3-person. I'm also trying to tap into some of the small college, or some of the guys that do even Division II college stuff out of Portland. That also kind of help with high school because their game management skills are really good. The thing about that though is they tend not to want to work 2-person games. I know working 3-person increases the cost because you now have an additional official on the floor, but it also allows for a better officiated game. Now the other question is for the officials to make it worth their time traveling from Portland, because this is not technically a OSA sanctioned event, but OSA has a certain pay scale, and I know AAU has a certain pay scale. So trying to find a sweet spot in there where we can entice those officials to come and work these games for us.
That's what
And
donuts are for, Bobby.
I try not to eat donuts.
Okay.
But yeah,
Coffee?
no, that coffee and donuts definitely helps. Definitely helps.
Okay.
You know, kind of trying to find a sweet spot of, you know, somewhere between 40. Talking to Nick, I've talked to Nick several times over the last couple of weeks. You know, anywhere from $40 to $50 per game, if that's doable. You know, right now I have about 10 or 12 guys out of Salem that are definitely interested, and then working with Nick to try and find some more guys out of Portland and in the surrounding area. I want the officiating to be good, because that always, this year has been really hard on coaches, and a lot of them will tell you that you know, I know in Salem we've had to kind of push some people up into games that they're not necessarily ready for, and so I don't want that to be the case to end their season. I want to try and have as close as we can to the best top officials from, you know, local associations willing to work. I know that Steve mentioned to me that Portland's putting on a tournament, kind of culmination tournament, next week, running like Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, something like that. And talking to Nick, he felt like there would still be a good interest from officials to work the Oregon Madness. And I think with a lower number of teams, you know, scaled back a little bit this year, that finding those officials will be a doable proposition. I think other thing is being able to let them know they can be COVID tested if they haven't been vaccinated will definitely help with that process too, knowing that they're going to be going into an environment where they're not going to have to wear a mask, because that's been a huge complaint. And knowing that they're going into a you know, similar to a bubble situation. So
If you guys would like, we can do COVID testing at the end too. There's something like that, you know, they can come in and then we can do it again at the very end afterwards. So it's whatever you want to do, we'll do it. Because I can just bring all the tests to the they can be COVID tested before everything. Every person is COVID tested. So then, you know, handling the ball and all that stuff is going to be fine. But then at the end, they could also get COVID tested right there, and I can get them results in 2 days, approximately a day usually. So, yeah.
Great. Thank you, Bobby and Sarah. Brent, and any other want to open to questions? I think we covered a lot of it. So we'll try to wrap everything up schedule-wise by Friday. And if somehow, I guess, some teams pull out, then Brent, we just have to make the call, right? So that these coaches know how to communicate with their players and their staff. So to make it fair for everybody.
And so if there is other coaches that you know of that should have been invited, maybe let me know. I know James, I was texting Whiteman, but if there's other coaches that you might know of, let me know if you're on this call or if you're hearing this, that maybe we missed. Butte Falls is going to play. There's how Nixie, how do you pronounce that, Lynette?
It's Nick Yahweh.
Nick Yahweh.
Yeah.
Close, maybe.
Yeah, no, that's good.
So, and then there's Grant, Coach Key. So there's a number of people that aren't able to be on this call. So if there's other people, I'll be in touch with you guys. We'll be sending out an email. But we're hoping to get all the teams that have already committed to. Most of the teams like the idea of 2 games. Most of the teams said they like that it's not going to span 2-3 weeks, because just that's really difficult for out of town teams and teams that are wanting to go on vacation. So we think this is going to be the best solution. So I appreciate you guys that are on the call tonight. And if you're not on the call watching this on replay, definitely we'll be in touch. So with that, I'm going to stop the recording. Unless anybody wants to add anything, going once.